When I woke up Saturday morning, I was a little bit bummed out. But the fact that Vicky's making breakfast in the kitchen made everything a little bit more bearable. I was hoping to take the Malibu down to trails today and make my first pass on E85, but due to the amount of damage done to the rear axle in the Malibu, that's completely out of the question. So for this morning, I'm just going to have to settle for puppy sitting and parts chasing, and helping Billy and Jeremy work on Billy's Nova out in the shop. Someone dropped off a set of billet aluminum steering arms for Billy's Nova, so Jeremy gets ready to install those while Billy works on the tune in the computer. Now I've still got high hopes of taking that Malibu to trails on Sunday to race it if we can get it put back together. But before we can do that, we've got to get Billy's Nova off the lift, and I need a new set of ring gear bolts. So off to Jegs I go. And I'm really hoping that Uncle Terry will be working in there today. I stop and put a little bit of fuel in the 64, and then I make my way into Columbus on 70 to 71. With as many road trips as we make in this truck and to Jegs to pick up parts, I'm sure glad I put that 700R4 transmission in this thing with a lockup converter, especially with gas prices the way they are right now. When I walked in the store, Miss Kimmy was at the front counter to greet me, and I noticed something really cool playing in the showroom. I caught a glimpse of BJ, and then of course Billy and Juju Ladner down at the pad. Anyway, I waited my turn for Uncle Terry, and by the time I got to him, he had my parts laid out that I'd already asked him for, plus I picked up a few odds and ends for the 327 I'm getting ready to put in Mom and Dad's 55 Chevy. When I got back to the house, Billy was out in the driveway, warming up his Nova. He's been working non-stop on the tune for this car so that it comes up on boost nice and clean and quick. And he's not going to stop until he's got it perfect. Billy's basically teaching himself how to tune this thing with the Holly, and he's learning really quick, with a considerable amount of help from Justin Shear out in Oklahoma.
So I'm learning that the leaner it is on the trans brake, the more it pops and bangs.
Yes.
So they always say lean is mean on the trans brake.
Yes.
And I'm finding that to be true because the more fuel I take away from it on the trans brake, the more angry it seems to get.
Yeah.
And the more it pops. So I'm trying to find a happy medium between sounding like an AK-47 and maybe sounding like a 1911 or like a something like a pistol. I'm trying to be somewhere in between. That way it doesn't scare all the neighbors. Nobody wants to move here anymore. But you got a neighbor next door that just moved in, and they probably think we're shooting guns over here. So we got to tame it down just a little bit. Here we go. See, I had it fat on the brake. I had a fuel modifier set up, and I didn't realize it was set up all the time, and it was pulling away like 30% fuel based on coolant temperature. So when I took that away, it made it fat coming up on the brake when it brought that 30% back. So I had to go in and lean it back out now that I fixed the fuel modifier. So before I fixed it though, it would only build like 6.5 pounds. It was building 10. So when you're at 4.0 to 4.2 coming up on the brake, it would only build like 6 pounds. So then when I brought it back to where it was like in the 5 air fuel ratio on the trans brake, it was like building 10 pounds. So that's the difference between building 6 or 7 pounds and building 10 to 12. Just being a little bit lean on the trans brake. So that's something we can apply to the truck too, I think, because it doesn't seem to want to build any boost, and it kind of sounds like it's a little bit fat on the brake. If there was a way to lean it out on the trans brake but not affect it going down the track, I think we could build more boost on the trans brake, not have to leave it such high RPM.
I can make it do that.
You got some fuel modifiers?
Yeah.
Okay.
How old are you now?
25.
I was your age when I bought this place. And I remember when I was your age, the only thing I could think about, the only thing I seemed to care about, really, was tuning engines. And right over your left shoulder, next to that tree, was above ground, like a fuel tank. It was on legs, and I think it held like 300 gallons of gasoline. And I had the local BP station come out and fill that damn thing full of gasoline. And in about 3 weeks, I went through that 300 gallon of gasoline, tuning the carburetor on my Nova. But in doing so, I picked up half a second ET. Just tuning a carburetor and tuning the ignition system. But back then, when I was your age, I didn't have any of that experience. I had to learn it on my own. You know, I taught myself.
Yeah.
And I see that in you. Because it's all you seem to be able to think about or worry about, or like you're either on that computer messing with it or out here shooting ducks, building boost, or you're at home watching videos on how to tune. And I see that in you. Wait till you're my age.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get it right. Like, I don't want to go out there and make a fool of myself, so I just want to make sure it's right when I go out there and I don't have a bunch of issues.
Well, in my case, I didn't have any money to go fast, so I had to figure out a way to go fast without spending money, which I spent money on that gasoline. I filled that tank, but back then that was no big deal, you know. Gasoline wasn't that expensive back then.
I feel like learning to tune this kind of stuff on my own is going to pay off in the long run.
Oh, it absolutely will.
And
look what we've done with the carburetor.
I'm going to make a few mistakes along the way, but it's one of those things where I'd rather make the mistakes myself than have to rely on somebody else. And then, you know, anybody can make a mistake, so it's like I'd rather it be me than somebody else. Then I got no one else to blame. So with this, it's a little bit easier than when you were tuning in the driveway, you know, 20, 30 years ago, because I actually have data logs I can look at after I do something. So like after I build boost once, I can pull the data log and I can see exactly how much fuel it was flowing, what the timing was, how long into the, you know, boost ramp it was. I can see everything. With your situation, all you could do was hear it, see it, smell it,
feel it.
That's
read the
it.
plugs.
So
intuition. But in reality, I mean, I wasn't trying to make 2,000 horsepower. I was trying to make 350 or 400. But it's still, yeah, it's still the same thing still applies.
Yeah.
It's just you're doing it with a lot more expensive equipment, with a lot more risk if you tear it up or if you make a mistake.
Well, the good thing about this is, you know, I can rely on closed loop just a little bit, you know, just to get it close those first couple times. You know, like going down the road the other day, I had that fuel modifier turned on and it was pulling away 30% fuel all the time. So when I made a pull, it met target air fuel of 4.0, but it was telling me that it was adding 25%. But my learn table said it was dead on. So I'm like, well, what the hell is going on here? If the learn table is telling me that it's dead on, there's something else going on. So I went and saw that there's a modifier that's turned on, it's pulling 30% away. So turn that off and we should be golden. But yeah, if I didn't have closed loop on, it would have been a little bit lean. Now that's something that when we were tuning the truck, we didn't really have. You know, if it's lean and you're making a pull, you got to watch the air fuel gauge and get out of it and, you know, collect your thoughts and figure out what went wrong.
It's not easy.
With this, I can see everything, so it's a little bit easier to make decisions. At least for me.
After lunch, Jeremy and I needed to run up to the farm to check on my dad. He's been working ground up there getting ready to plant soybeans, but Jeremy's tools for pulling the bearings off my carrier are up at the farm, and Dad's working on putting a clutch in his John Deere 60. Plus, he needed a little bit of help from Jeremy to move the right rear wheel out on the axle. So once we got that wheel taken care of for Dad, he started putting the clutch together in the 60, and Jeremy got busy pulling the bearings off my posi carrier. All the rain we've had this spring has made it really difficult for Dad to plow and get ready to plant beans. And it's also made it pretty damn difficult for us to go test and get any racing done lately. And hopefully, if we can get this thing put back together, the rain will hold off tomorrow, so I can at least get to make some passes in this Malibu down at Trails. Anyway, when we got back to shop, Billy was working on his windows for his Nova, cutting patterns out of some optic armor sheets of tinted Lexan. So I worked on that with Billy for a little while Jeremy worked on cleaning up what was left of the spider gears and debris out of the center section and rear axle of the Malibu. Once Jeremy had everything cleaned up and all the metal filings out of the rear end, it was time to go ahead and put the carrier in and tighten everything back up. To be honest, we didn't have time to check the gear pattern. We're just going to put this thing back in there with the shims exactly the way they were and wish for the best, because I'm taking this thing to the races tomorrow, come hell or high water. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Finally, it was time to fire the car up and take it for its first trip up the road with the new carrier. And unbelievably, the rear end is just as quiet as it was before. So as I go past National Trail Raceway on my way home on my test drive, I feel pretty confident I'm finally going to get to race this thing on E85 tomorrow, so long as the weather holds out. The forecast is calling for rain overnight and a little bit in the morning, so we managed to get Billy's Nova back in the shop just in time to keep it out of the rain. Well, you pulled it off.
As usual.
You fixed my pile of one more time.
Until you turn it back into a pile.
I wouldn't do that.
You break something every other week.
No, I don't. Do I break something every other week?
No, I'd say every week.
It whines just a tiny little bit more on D-cell. Is there anything you can do about that?
No.
I'm going to get a rear end ordered soon.
I would hope. We're not fixing a 10 volt again.
We're not?
But if it grenades this time, it's done. Stick a fork in it.
Vicky and I got up early Sunday morning and got busy working on the Malibu. I needed to give it a bath and get it cleaned up from sitting outside in the rain overnight. So I got out the soap and the bucket, got the car all cleaned up, dried it off, and guess what happened? Just about the time I put the car in the trailer, a light rain came over, and we got word from the track that they're going to make a decision at 10 o'clock on whether they're going to continue to dry the track or call the race off for the day. So I go out in the shop and help Billy and Jeremy for a little bit, work on the Nova. And while Vicky's waiting to hear from the track whether they're going to call the race or not, she got started putting names in the box for our monthly giveaway. And at about 10:05, we got word. Trails has called the race for today because of the forecast. So Billy and I went on a treasure hunt looking for half-inch fine thread all thread on a Sunday and some tie rod ends, which were nowhere to be found. And since we really want to get this done today, I decided to call back to my Uncle Tim's at the machine shop to see if he can help us make what we cannot find on a Sunday. Tim kind of specializes in antique farm and excavating equipment, but he always seems to make time to bail us out with race car problems when we need him the most. So we go into the shop and dump our problems in Tim's lap. Billy explains to him what we need to get done, and Tim gets started on it right away. All of Tim's machinery equipment up there is antique by today's standards, but it all does an incredibly good job, and all of it's paid for. You know the old saying, fix it, use it, wear it out, make it do, or do without. And Tim has definitely fixed and used everything that he's got in this shop. Tim got us all fixed up and sent us on our way back home. And while Billy worked on putting the suspension and steering components back together in the Nova, I decided it was probably a good time to get this monster truck down off the shelf and get it cleaned up. It's a 1/8 scale version of the famous USA 1 monster truck, originally built by Everett Jasmer out of Minnesota. The USA 1 Chevy was basically the rival to the Ford Bigfoot monster truck that toured all over the country, going to county fairs and monster truck shows in the 80s and 90s. This truck is brand new, it's only about a year old, and you can still buy these brand new on the internet. And most importantly, you can still get parts for them if you happen to tear it up. I managed to get the truck all cleaned up and Billy had his front suspension all back together about the time Vicky came home with pizza for everybody for dinner. All right, so we got done eating dinner. Mom got us pizza. And where do we sit with this thing now? What do we got left to do?
I need to go tomorrow and get a couple fittings for the turbo drain lines. I had put some of the wrong fittings in. They're a 1/2 inch MPT and I thought they were a -10 ORB. Okay. So they didn't quite seal properly. So get a couple fittings. Need to get some 1/2 inch 20. We're probably gonna get some wheel studs tomorrow to make these instead of getting some all thread because they'll be hardened, be a little bit stronger, and we'll just cut the ends off and then clean them up on the ends.
So we tried to get Tim to make us some all thread today, but the all thread that we got just wasn't cooperating, so we aborted that deal. Yeah. Another mission impossible for Uncle Tim. So we're gonna go and get some other stuff tomorrow. We were trying to get it done today, which is Sunday, so it's hard to get, you know.
Only the big generic stores are open today. So
right.
Our typical mom and pop stores are closed.
AKA Uncle Mark.
A1 Auto. True Value Hardware.
Right.
You know, place we normally go.
Right.
But then, yeah, once we get that, we'll be able to get our toe adjusted right.
Oh, did you get a hold of Lucor?
Yeah, Austin's on power tour, so it would just be Rich. I asked if we could get it in there Tuesday. He's gonna let me know.
So the plan is to wait. Do we even want to say what our plan is? Probably shouldn't.
I'd like to test it this week.
Okay.
Make my first pass.
But we're not gonna say where and when.
Gotta get some windows in it. I got the windows cut. I just gotta get them in there.
Right.
Figure out how to put them in there and get them so they're sturdy and strong.
Right. So we've got a turbo drain line situation. We got some fittings we need to go get tomorrow for those.
We think we might have had an issue in this line.
Yeah.
It might have been plugged up for some reason. We put some air to it and then now all of a sudden you can blow into it.
Yeah, and this turbo's been leaking a little bit. So we think we may have something going on there that we have resolved. And, we want to wire up the headlights.
Gotta wire the headlights,
and
wire the shift solenoid.
Yeah, that's a 5-minute job. I can do that easy, no problem.
The wires already run to it. So.
Sweet. So we're getting really close to testing this thing.
Yeah, it's getting there. I think maybe a couple more days, hopefully.
I'm really excited.
Me
because this is a game changer for us. This isn't the carbureted half-assed S10 that we've been racing forever. I mean, it's a good truck, but it's not this. It's nowhere near this.
No.
And the Falcon's a good car too, but it's nowhere near this either.
No, I mean, honestly, I feel like this car should be able to go 450s, 460s on no prep. And that's what I need to do with some of these front sides, you know, to win. So I'm hoping that I can do that and not even have to really lean on it that hard.
I mean, we somehow managed to get into the finals a lot, and sometimes we win them, but more often than not, we run into a buzzsaw someplace that just absolutely out mile-an-hours us like crazy, and they don't have to push it as hard in a 60 foot, and they don't have to
be on the wheel for the light.
Right. Like we have to have every little thing that we can possibly get to be competitive, and even then we still end up on the wrong end of the stick. But
my goal with this thing is to not ever lose. Which I know that's hard to attain, but I don't know. I want this thing to just dominate. I know that's a big goal, and there's a lot of fast cars out there though. So even if I could just win a lot more than I do now, I'd probably be happy. But
well, you've got a lot of really good people helping you. You know, very knowledgeable people. And I'm not talking about me. I mean, I'm helping you, but this is far outside my wheelhouse. Like, you're learning how to tune the Holly, and that's a lot.
I think car should do good. It's got like 7 inches of travel in the front. It scales pretty good. It's about 50-50. So, I mean, even though the motor is not really moved back a whole lot, I feel like, you know, I've dealt with my S10 for so long.
Oh, this
Can't
is
be that bad. I mean,
this
we're like 400 or 500 pounds lighter than the S10 with a big block and twins, and it scales right without ballast. It's got to be better.
Oh,
I mean,
it's gonna be better.
With what I've done with the S10, I feel like I haven't done that bad, so I feel like this should put me, unless the S10 just got some kind of magic to it that this don't have, but I don't know. This car's been around a long time.
The S10 has served us very well and still does.
And it still will, and we're gonna do some upgrades to it.
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't forgotten it. We're not like putting it out to pasture or anything.
Oh, I got a pretty badass motor I'm gonna put in it with some trick flow heads here soon and an Isky cam, so.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited about that. We're gonna start doing some things to the truck that it needed to have done a long time ago. The problem is, for the longest time, the truck was it. If we didn't have the truck, there was no content to be made. So the truck had to run all season, all winter, all summer, and it could never be down. There was no time, and if it did go down, it was a fire emergency to get it back up and running.
I feel like now the S10 is pretty bulletproof, but you know, it's taken us a long time to figure out how to do that and make it bulletproof and stay on top of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's bulletproof, but we need some more mile an hour. We need some more horsepower, less weight. And this is where it's at for right now.
And in all honesty, we really need to put the E word on it, because the data that we don't have, that we have never had with that truck, could help that truck so much. There's so many things that truck needs, and it just, you know, it's been the mainstay of the channel. Like, if it doesn't run, if it doesn't race, then there's no content. So
I mean, it's just so much harder to do it the way we're doing it, and we don't really need to anymore.
For the longest time, we didn't realize we're doing it the hard way. We're just doing it the only way we knew how.
Yeah, it seemed easy to us, but for others, it was probably really hard to do it the way we were doing it. But,
Oh, it was very. It was.
and most people just put EFI on their shit and take it to a tuner, you know.
Yeah.
But we don't really know how to do that.
Well, we've never been able to afford to do that. You know, I mean, my God, this thing is expensive.
Yeah, if I had to pay somebody to do everything on this car, it would probably be double the price. You know, I mean, no doubt.
We're very thankful for Robbie coming on when he did. We needed Rob in the worst way when Rob came around. You agree?
Oh yeah, he's been a huge help. Been a huge help. I mean, when he started coming around, it was like things just really started getting done, because I can't do it all on my own, you know. And it's a lot. It's a lot as far as the fabrication and everything goes. He's able to see things that I can't. He's got a little bit more years of being a mechanic than I do, and he can see what needs to happen and what, you know, what works. I got pretty decent at welding, so he was like the cutting, and he could visualize the way everything needed to be. I'd stick it together, but watching him do it, it taught me some things too. So we're both getting better.
All right, I'm gonna cut this off so I can get this video done. This is probably gonna be kind of a long video.
Yeah. Cool. Hopefully look for some test passes here soon.
We'll be back at it tomorrow, huh?
Yep.